We are continuing with and actually probably we're finishing pretty much with the series this morning. Um, you, a unity reboot, or rebooting unity, or however you care to put it. Number 9 in our series of touching the basic truths unity teaches and has taught for years. And it's the principle of giving and receiving this morning. Number 9, Mary Ellen has, and the scriptural reference is from the Gospel of Matthew. And it says, "And as you go, preach and say that the kingdom of heaven is near. Heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons. Freely you have received, freely." And our time of quieting. I invite you, if you're comfortable to do so, close your eyes for a little bit. There's nothing magical about that. You can leave your eyes open if you please, but it shuts out just one sensory input a little bit and sometimes helps the process. A breath that signifies a deepness of spirit within us. A breath that acknowledges the life-giving sustenance of God, maintaining, sustaining, blessing. I acknowledged that I am a spiritual being. I acknowledged that I live in a spiritual universe. I acknowledged that I am governed by spiritual law, the eternal principle behind, within all things. God in us, God through us, and God as us. There is only the one presence, one power, the source that we call God. In truth, there is nothing else. We see things through our eyes, and we see them differently, and sometimes on a scale of good, bad, or indifferent. However, it's our vision that places the meaning upon it. So this morning we place a meaning upon this moment of fulfillment, of meeting an appointment time with our own innermost being, but doing it on a conscious level, taking our time to come apart a while. And here our purpose is to touch and know and be the God self, the good self that we are. I am that spiritual being, for I have the eternalness of spirit at the center of who and what I am. I am forever. I have inhabited many different frequencies and many different body experiences. But I am right now, right here. I live in a spiritual universe. There is God principle, God law, God love at the center of all things, everywhere I can imagine, and the many places that I can't even begin to fathom. It's all God. God as me. I am that expression of the one presence, one power, moving in me, through me, and as me. And we know that we let that be the cornerstone for the conscious unfolding of the time that we have yet to be together today. we give a conscious focus of blessing to the names in our prayer chest. People who have asked that we hold them in prayer, in knowing. There is an energy that flows from us as we do this. It touches the individual specific identification through the name in the prayer chest, and it goes forward and outward to bless. You are a spiritual being. You live in a spiritual universe. You are governed by spiritual law. You know what you need to know at the appropriate moment. You understand more deeply the life eternalness that heals and loves. You acknowledge God as your source, God in you, through you, and as you. We see you blessed as we accept our blessing, as we then can inwardly give thanks as we say, it is so. Amen.
Star. Don't hold back now, or close your hand. If you feel close or lost or broken, that's when you need your heart wide open. Love is gonna find you going. Just believe. The more you give, the more you will receive. It's a brand new day. Never look away. It'll work out somehow. What you'll seek, you'll find. So just open your mind. No, you can't fall down. Don't hold back now, or close your hands when they're out. Love is gonna find you, guide you. If you feel close or lost or broken, that's when you need your heart wide open. Love is gonna find you, guide you. You gotta share the gifts you're holding. Don't be afraid. The more you give, the more you will receive. You control the power in your soul. Every moment is a chance, and we hold them in our hand. That's when you need your heart wide open. Love is gonna find you, guide you. You gotta share the gifts you're holding. Don't be afraid of where you're going. Just believe. The more you give, the more you will receive. The more you give.
Good morning. Linda, you're amazing. Thank you, isn't she? Always has such beautiful music to match with whatever art is. I just wanted to say this book, How to Love Your Neighbor, is it's timeless, and I think you're going to enjoy it if you don't already have a copy of it. Sig Paulson, Sig and Janie Paulson were my first Unity ministers at Unity Village. So, and little did we know, Larry, when he was a teenager, knew Sig Paulson at Unity in Seattle, was it, or somewhere? Okay. So I just wanted to mention that yesterday we had a memorial service here for Linda Ketchum Fajardo. Some of you may remember her. She did teach in our Sunday school, and she touched a lot of people's lives. And a lot of people had things to say. It was a very well attended service, I thought. And one that impressed me, though, was a man who said that Linda was always so upbeat and positive. And he was very, at that point in his life, he was very attached to the news, hearing the news and, who was doing this to that and, wars and rumors of wars, etc. And he said to Linda, so how can you stay up with all of this that's going on? And she said something profound, and I just wanted to share that with you. She said, oh, that's out there in the world. It's not a part of my world. Isn't that beautiful? It's not a part of my world. For her world's her inner world. And what a light and what a blessing for people. All right, so we have some things we want to talk about today with this subject of giving and receiving. We started this series that just pulled out the thought that it's a reboot of Unity teachings that we wanted to bring to you this summer, spring and summer. And so the computer reboot, is we restarted, and the Unity reboot, we just saw that as a time to refresh and re-energize Unity's teachings. And maybe bring in some of the deeper things that you haven't had an opportunity to read or to be exposed to. So I think we have a little bit of that today for sure. So today's reboot, and we're talking about giving and receiving. What I want us to understand is this has nothing to do with being rewarded. In other words, we did something, so we're going to get rewarded for it, as if somebody's giving us something. It's not like that at all. It's all coming through us. So this is a God concept that is different for many people, because many feel that God is a rewarding, punishing kind of God. So I want to bring some more angles and facets to this whole giving and receiving. So the co-founders of Unity, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, understood and taught that there is an inner and an outer of everything. Meaning, there is a cause side of things, and there is the effect side of everything. And the effects are all interconnected with the cause. And so that's what learning to look from the metaphysical viewpoint reveals to us. And I just came across this, I think it must have been in the Unity archives, but it was on someone's Facebook this morning. And I said, oh, that is so timely. This Myrtle Fillmore put this in a poetic way. And this was from her theological seminar, December the 3rd, 1890. And it's so beautiful. She said, back of the canvas that throbs, the painter is hinted and hidden. Into the statue, the soul of the sculptor is hidden. Under the joy that is felt lies the infinite issues of feeling. Crowning the glory revealed is the glory that crowns the revealing. Great are the symbols of being, but that which is symbolized is greater. Vast the created, but vaster is the inward creator. Isn't that beautiful? It just touches my heart to see it put like that. This is exactly what Jesus was teaching. That there is a cause and an effect side of everything. And it's summed up in just a few words. Give, and it will be given unto you. Give, and it will be given unto you. And if you notice, this simple teaching just doesn't exclude anyone. It includes everyone and everything. There are no clauses about what has to be given, who should do it, who shouldn't do it, or anything like that. It doesn't say that it is limited to money or things, because it's talking about both the inner and the outer aspect of life, all giving. And principle, which is what we're talking about, principle includes all giving. Give, and it will be given unto you. And I just like to say there is no expiration date on Jesus' teachings. You can quote me on that. Sometimes people think it is limited to a certain kind of giving. There's a little boy who was attending church with his parents for the first time, sitting in, our Sunday school kids call it big church. He was sitting in big church with his parents. And so when he saw the ushers passing the offering bag, he said in a loud voice so everybody could hear it, "Daddy, remember, you don't have to pay for me. I'm under 5 years old." So, giving and receiving as principle. In the early days of unity, Charles Fillmore wrote a pamphlet, they sometimes called them tracts, but pamphlet, entitled Giving and Receiving, and I want to share some of what was in that. The doctrine of Jesus Christ stands out prominently for its practical application in all the affairs of life. It is not alone a religion in the limited aspect which that word is used, but a rule of living, doing, thinking, being. Man has not sounded the depths of the most simple guide to success in matters practical as well as ethical. They have separated the religious from the ethical from the common things of breadwinning. These have been classified and each put in different compartments of the mind and consequently acted out in the living as separated one from another. This has led to a Sunday religion and a weekday license. It has not seemed practical. Give, and it will be given unto you. And then he explains that the reason that we haven't made this practical is because we haven't understood the law that this is based on. It's not a law that originated with Jesus, but it's a law that is incorporated in all of life. The co-founder of Unity knew this principle. Jesus knew this principle. The ancients, the ancient great teachers have all known this principle. The thing that is unique with people like the Fillmores is that they taught the metaphysics of it. They captured how it worked. and they were able to explain it. So in the Revealing Word, which if you don't have a copy of Revealing Word and you are a serious Unity student, I really encourage you to get a copy. We have them in the lending library. You can borrow them for a limited period of time, but you can also get your own copy. And you have the metaphysical definitions for things. And so in the Revealing Word, here's what it says about giving and receiving. It is necessary to give freely if we are to receive freely. The law of receiving includes giving. The knowledge that substance is omnipresent and that man cannot therefore impoverish himself by giving, but rather will increase his supply, will enable man to give freely and cheerfully. Jesus taught, freely you have received, freely give. We're always receiving first. We don't always acknowledge that, but we are always receiving. Omnipresent substance. Substance, you cannot talk about giving and receiving or begin to understand what the principle is about and what it's based on if you don't understand about substance. And I know it's a term, but it's an important term for us to realize. It is the divine idea of the reality of all that is. And substance, this everywhere present reality of all that is, underlies all manifestation. So whether you're thinking about your next meal or an idea that's coming to you to express in a creative way, you are tapping in spiritual essence and forming it in thought and word and visualization and so on. And it's this living energy then that manifests as whatever it is that you have in mind. Does that make sense? Substance is not something that is sometimes given. You live and move and have your being in it. And so that is so important for us to understand. It's the invisible God stuff, you might say, that we then form and mold. So it's the living energy that is omnipresent, that we live, move, and have our being in it. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Sometimes we take a look at what looks like dire situations. People having terrible, unfortunate, hurtful, painful kinds of things happening in their life. And it is so easy for us to think, well, yes, I live and move and have my being in substance, but maybe they don't. You know, one of the greatest gifts that we can give, the greatest prayer treatments we can give, is when we see or hear of something like that, to take a moment and acknowledge right where you are, God is. Right where you are, the living energy for all good is. And not see them as limited, but see them in all the potential. My sense is that Jesus was teaching us to let go of the belief that what's real is what our five senses tell us, and open our minds to reality with a capital R. He talked about the treasure hidden in the field. And substance can be likened to this. In effect, Jesus said, when we find the treasure that's hidden in the field, it's the field of our consciousness, not the field out here, the field in our consciousness. When we find that, we will be connecting consciously with our source. And it's from knowing that connection with source in the inner that all the requirements of life are fulfilled. So we find in Jesus' teachings, in just about every parable that he gave, this important point that what we seek really is what already lies within us. It's not in the without, and no one else has it and is standing in the way of our having it. And so it's an important thing to remember. In the book Prosperity, Charles Fillmore wrote, "There is a law of giving and receiving. It's a law of mind action, and it can be learned and applied the same as any other law. The law of giving and receiving that Jesus taught, give, and it will be given unto you, is found to be applicable not only in our commercial life, but in our social relationships. It's a principle that is a part of every aspect of life. And we are always giving and receiving. That's the thing. We don't just sometimes give and sometimes receive. It is always happening. And it includes the physical, it includes the mental, it includes all the giving in all, and it includes the receiving in all the ways. We're always receiving. We just may not be aware of it. And we may not be aware of when we are giving. And that's our challenge, isn't it? As true students, be aware, be mindful. If not, if we are not mindful, it will seem as if something came out of nowhere. It broadsided us. We won't get the connection that we were part of that. Jesus said, "Take heed what you hear. The measure you give will be measured to you, and still more will be given to you." That's a law of increase. Really, Jesus is in effect telling us that when we give, there is a momentum that gets going. And as it is returning to us, there is a momentum involved in that as well. Listen to the words. Give, or with what measure you give will be measured to you, and still more will be given to you. In my meditation, it just came to me so clearly. This is talking about the momentum that gets going. So it isn't just an even tit for tat, but there's an increase. Does that make sense? Law of compensation. Unity teaches that it is law, not luck, that is operating in life. The only way I use the word luck is the way Sig Paulson used it. He made it as an acronym, living under conscious knowledge. Otherwise, I don't use the word luck because that sounds like happenstance. So there's no luck, there's law. And when we begin to understand this, we realize that there is no getting something for nothing. It ain't going to happen. There's no getting something for nothing. When people don't understand that life is always in balance, there may be this little question that's going on. Well, how much do I need to give? How little can I give to get something back? Maybe we could reword that. I don't know if it would fit with anyone here today, but how little can I put into this relationship to have a satisfying relationship? How little can I get away with putting into this project to be successful? How little can I put into this family and still be a supportive group feeling? How little can I put into my church and still have the spiritual support that I seek? How little can I put into it? That is a silly way of thinking. That is a silly kind of thought. Life's about balance. And a good exercise might be to make a list of what we want to receive. And then also make a list of what we are giving to balance that. See, there's always a balance. Do we want others to respect us? How much respect are we giving? Do we want to feel loved and approved of? How are we expressing love and approval? Sometimes we can be more focused on what we are or are not receiving than on what we are or are not giving. So I want us to just think about that. Do I have any more points? So many great things I wanted to share with you. I have more pages. You want some of my pages, Raphael? Charles Fillmore taught, and this can seem shocking sometimes when people come across this, but he said, never give with the idea you are bestowing charity. What are you doing if you think I'm giving to somebody who doesn't have? We're seeing them in lack. We're focusing on their lack. It doesn't mean don't give. It means don't give out of that sense of lack. Are you with me? You understand there's a difference. Give in honoring, not in thinking of charity. Some other things I wanted to touch on was we never get back from the same place that we give. So just don't expect it. Don't expect it. Sometimes people have the thought, well, I'm just going to stop giving there because I never get anything back. Well, that's just not a right idea behind the giving. Guess who gets the effects of that? We get the effects of that. Don't have strings attached to your giving. Don't expect that somebody ought to give you more power because you've given more. Release it. Don't keep track of it. Spiritual law knows you don't have to keep track of it. And receiving. Here's an important thing I have learned, and it serves me well. Receiving is connected to our sense of worthiness. So never turn down your good. Have you ever had someone want to give you something and you're thinking within you, well, they shouldn't be giving that to me. They have so little. Do you know what happens with energy when someone is wanting to give you something and you refuse it? It's like it comes back and hits them in the solar plexus. Never turn down your good. Be gracious, thank you, just shift like that. I hope you're with me on this. This is a really, really important point, and I could spend another half hour on it. Because I have had the experience, and maybe you have too, of wanting to give something to someone and then having them refuse. And you feel as if your flow has just been disrupted. So don't do it. Don't do it. Um, and practice gratitude. Every time we are tempted to think of what we don't have, who we don't have in our life, what good we don't have in our life, we always have the opportunity to shift to what we do have. It doesn't matter how small it is or how large. Aren't we grateful that there's sunshine every day? Aren't we grateful for shelter, for food, for clean water, and on and on and on? Be thankful for who you are. Include that in the gratitude, because you are an amazing expression of God, an amazing expression of light and love. You forget it. I forget it. But be thankful for who you are and this amazing journey that you're on. And that which has brought you to this point is continuing. You are continuing to unfold and grow. As someone said, we haven't come this far to just come this far. So, God bless you. See yourself as a steward. Tithing, I was going to speak more on the subject of tithing, but it's a way of orderly giving. So whether you think of a tithe, in Larry's in my case, it's over 10%. We have the attitude, we can't outgive God, because we believe in principle and law. But encourage you to do this if you aren't already doing it. Start with some kind of a percent, an orderly way that you give, so that you put yourself in balance. You put your giving and receiving in a balanced sort of way. And it works. It works. And our lives are testimonies of that. God bless you. Enjoy the journey.
About about prosperity, talking about tithing. It's a very touchy subject for a lot of people, especially